My name is Sander Vermeulen. I'm Dutch Brazilian, but I actually grew up in Belgium and I've lived there my entire life. At the age of 18, I decided to move to Rotterdam to start my bachelor's there. And since a very young age, I was already very much interested in business. And so I already knew from the beginning on that I wanted to study business. And since I heard that Rotterdam was so international, that was a perfect location for me to go there and meet some more international people while studying business as well. And after doing my bachelor for 3 years, I actually enjoyed it so much here that I decided to stay as well for my master. And that's what I'm currently doing here in my fourth year in strategic management at the Rotterdam School of Management. So from the beginning on, I already knew the big difference between the Erasmus program and the Erasmus University. For me personally, it was that I already had family who studied at the Erasmus University, and through them I got to know what the exact meaning was of the university and how it all functioned. And it was also because of that that I got to know how international and how well the ranking was, and that was very important for me personally to have a good career in the future. And after doing some research, I got to know what programs they offered, where this university was located, and what kind of business and other like-minded people would come and were attracted by these studies. And that was mainly my reason to come here to Rotterdam and to select this bachelor and master program for me. For me, in the bachelor, it was a quite big number of students, and it was a classical format of big lectures with some workshops and a lot of theory that you had to study, and then you had a classical exam. For the master, it was completely different. The classes were a little bit tinier. You had way more interactions with your professor, and also, most importantly, you had a lot of cases. So on average, we had three business cases per week that we had to either solve in team or individually. And usually these were done in teams. So you also had a lot of interaction going with other students, which was for me personally very important as well, because not only go to university to study, but also to meet other people. And that was the big difference mostly or compared with the bachelor. First time I arrived here in Rotterdam, it was actually a quite big surprise. I didn't know anything about the city, so it was a very big surprise. And I saw the first things I noticed was that there was a beautiful mix between old and new buildings. So yeah, Rotterdam got bombed in the Second World War, so a lot of buildings had to be rebuilt. And the mix is just it's a beautiful outcome. You have very nice student places where you can have a nice bar or a nice drink with your friends or colleagues. But you also have very nice student places where only students, or where you only find students. And I think that's just a beautiful mix as Rotterdam as a city. It's really a metropolitan city and not only a typical student city. So there's a lot more activities to do than only purely student activities. Transport system in Rotterdam is amazing. You can get from point A to B within 1 hour everywhere in the city, but most likely within 20 to 30 minutes. And that's only locally. However, most Dutchies, of course, they prefer to bike, and they no matter the weather, rain or storm or sunny, they'll take the bike for sure. But that's only locally. And Rotterdam itself is very well connected to other cities within, say, Amsterdam, Utrecht, or Eindhoven. And that's all doable within 1 hour as well. And then, of course, we also have an airport in Rotterdam or close to Rotterdam. And of course, also the bigger airport in Amsterdam, Schiphol, which with essentially such a central location is very easy to fly anywhere. It's such a central hub. You can fly to any European or major European city in Europe, or even the bigger cities in Asia or America. So it's all very accessible from here. We actually have a very active community on campus, and I was actually one of the lucky ones to live on campus in the first year in one of the international buildings, and that was a great experience. Actually, all the friends that I have right now, I met them through the living on campus as well, and that was just one great experience. And it's the same for the associations. You name it, we have an association for it at the Erasmus University. There are associations for extreme sports or for piano lessons or even badminton. Anything, you name it, we have it. And I think that's just great. Like, whatever you look for, there's probably something that suits you, or maybe if you want to try something new as well, there's always the opportunity to try something different. Yeah, of course, you get to meet a lot of people, and in the beginning, it's always looking, of course, who can I connect with, who can I maybe even vibe with, and that really depends. But after a certain time of period, you have found that click, and with those people, you can do various things. You can imagine like cooking together, which is done quite often here in Rotterdam, or you can have drinks together, or maybe even more sportsy activities like running together, or I personally like to go surfing a lot. So then usually I go surfing with those that like to go surfing as well. The waves are not big in Holland, but when they're enjoyable, it's definitely doable. So for everyone that likes a specific activity, there's usually something to do. Think about singing or making music together, or maybe even startup environments that you want to create your own business. It all happens here in Rotterdam as well, for sure. First of all, I noticed that for the Dutch students in my bachelor, there was a quite big wedge between the two groups, because for my bachelor program, I did international business administration. There's also a Dutch version. So usually the Dutch students that you find in the international version are really the Dutchies that prefer the international experience and really look forward to working in an international setting. And whereas the Dutch that only prefer to do the Dutch version of the bachelor, they're purely focused on the national career events and opportunities. But still, through certain events offered by associations such as STAR, which is one of the biggest student associations in Europe, they still come together for certain activities. And because of that, you still get to meet other students from different faculties or even different nationalities, or the typical Dutch students. And of course as well, like in the city, it's not a requirement to speak Dutch, but everyone speaks very good English here as well. But you still get to meet those typical Dutch students as well, which is always a nice touch as well to living in the city. Within the RSM faculty, which is focused on business, we have pretty much all the business aspect within the program. This ranges from HRM to finance and accounting, or maybe even sustainability. And I personally chose for strategic management because I was very much interested in consultancy and to solve problem in like complex situations. And my master was the perfect solution for that, since it was very on hands and we had a lot of practice throughout the whole program, but still learned also the fundamentals of theoretical backgrounds and knowledge coming from professors that actually worked in the industry. And that was actually the main reason for me to select that master. For the strategic management program, you start off with 4 core courses that you do in the trajectory of September to December. And those are mandatory for every student that selects the master. And starting from January, you have the option to do 3 electives or 3 courses from the strategic management faculty or program. And then you can select 2 of them. In total, there are 3. And 1 extra elective you can choose from any other RSM program that is available. So think about supply chain, also HRM or finance. And then next to these 3 electives, you of course also have your thesis that you have to write in that time period as well. Those are placed after the master's. So you first complete the master in the 12 months from September till say June, July. And then if you wish to go on exchange, you can apply for it. And for exchange destinations, you can think about Singapore or maybe even the US or the most business universities within Europe. So it's very international as well. It's not only RSM. First of all, there's the Erasmus University that has some faculties or associations as well that create career events. And under normal circumstances, they're on campus, and then you get to physically meet the recruiters from certain companies such as BCG or maybe PwC. And that's a very interesting day. Then you get to interact with them, you get to solve a case together, and you get to usually share your thoughts with a drink afterwards. Nowadays, it's of course all online, and that's also done through events organized by the Erasmus University, but also, for instance, through STAR, which is one of the associations for RSM. And they have various events throughout the year. Think about the STAR Management Week, or we also have the Erasmus Recruitment Days, where not only consulting companies, but a lot of industry companies come to those events, and you get to meet them as well. And it's then also usually through various cases or maybe even in-house days. So it really depends on the company and the format they want to get to know you as well. RSM is known to be quite competitive. It's a very competitive environment, but it also pushes you to become driven and to aim for your goals. And for instance, with the career events that we have, usually you have to apply through your CV or with a motivation letter. So usually you also only apply to those companies that you're really interested in, and with the correct motivation, then you also usually get into, because they really try to look for your motivation and not just because you're maybe half interested in the company. That information you can also, of course, get through Wikipedia or the company website. So for them, it's really interesting to see that you're motivated about the company and that you're really trying to get to some valuable information from the experience. Well, the nice thing about the university is they try to teach you to be a force of positive change, but they don't tell you how to do it. So it's really a journey for yourself to figure out how do you want to do that. And for instance, for me, in my free time, I really like to volunteer and help others as well if they're struggling, for instance. With my background in Brazil, we really like to take care of our families and friends or other people in Brazil by, for instance, taking care of them, sending boxes. And that's like my personal way of being a positive force for others, you know. But it's not only limited to that, it's also like with being an ambassador, for instance, and other people who are struggling to maybe find their university. Then I really take the joy out of it to help other people and guide them to that process of picking out their university. First of all, it's very important to, like, if you would ever consider Rotterdam, to really get some, talk to someone who actually studies here, because there is a lot of tips and valuable information that is actually really useful for when you would come here, such as maybe a typical restaurants or location that you definitely don't want to miss out when you study here. It's like going to Paris without seeing the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't count, you know? So that's my main tip for those that consider it. Talk to someone that studies here and it will be your most amazing experience ever, for sure.